Gently returning your attention to mind and body active in the world. Take a moment to scan your body and look into the state of mind that you find yourself in after meditation. Check in at the heart level. Hopefully you're feeling open, expansive. Now allow this heart to radiate love and kindness and healing and truth, presence, expanding out from you to embrace all beings everywhere. You can see it as a radiant light, expanding and moving out from the place where you are to fill your home, your block, your city, your county, the state, our nation, the world, rippling out into the universe. Knowing we are more than just this body, larger than this single life. We embrace our true existence as radiant pearls of the divine. We affirm that we can remain in this knowing at all times. And we continue to practice that knowing through our spiritual disciplines. We meditate, we pray, we contemplate, we share presence and divine love with our neighbors on this planet. We engage in life fully, but as spiritual beings. May our presence draw out the divine in others. May our actions express the divine in us and all of life. May our speech reflect our highest values and express our divinity. And may we be able to return to this knowing if at any time we forget. May we return quickly to this knowing. Let us seal our time of meditation by chanting Om together, the symbol and representation of the Source. Peace. And so it is. Amen. We are in the Sutras about God and the yoga philosophy around God. Last time we spoke, we were in Sutra 23 and 24, of the first book of the Yoga Sutras, which spoke about a sure and swift way, relatively swift way, to reach full knowledge of self and God is through devotion. Devotion and surrender to the concept of God. That was Sutra 23. Sutra 24 seeks to explore, what is God? And we talked about what God is for us, what the Yoga Sutras say God is, and how there is such a great challenge in pinning down this idea of the unchanging, infinite, eternal, it's kind of funny to think that we would try, but one of the attributes of human beings is applying meaning to life and the events in life and life itself, the evolution of consciousness, and trying to understand it all. What a journey. So Sutra 24 says that God, we're just using that word, is a special and unique being, and is beyond this experiential world. And for most of us, that's the crux of the challenge right there. This concept of God being beyond this world. How in the world can we relate to something that is beyond this world? Well, that is the ultimate the ultimate God, not the personal or the intimate God that we can actually relate to. So we as human beings have done a wonderful thing in translating this infinite eternal into something that we can relate to and can aspire to knowing. And I don't think it's just a trick of the mind. I believe that it's, as long as we're embodied, it is as close as we can come to being in so-called communion with the divine. You can't commune with something that is beyond our experience, right? But we can contemplate it, and we can attempt to imagine it. So Sutra 24 talks about God being pure and untainted by the things that human beings are so-called tainted by, which are, desires and fear and, needs and wants. The sutras say that this entity or this concept of God is pure potential. Now that I can understand myself. I can understand a field of pure potential, where everything comes from. If my mind goes back and forth between spiritual teachings and the scientific teachings about the origin or the beginning of the universes. And I always say universes because, there could be multiple universes. We don't know. We only know the one that we're contained in. And we don't even know that one. But It's the only one that we can even contemplate seriously, because we exist within it. So the source, the infinite source that is beyond all things, where all things came from, is ultimate God. And then we have this Ishvara, which is personal God. And it seems that we as human beings have created many personal gods, which is just fine because it's personal. Therefore, we have every right to relate to that God in any way that works for us. As individuals and collectively as cultures, I think it's a beautiful thing. Now, Sutra 26. Did I skip 25? Yes, I did. No, I didn't. 25 says that this concept of God, this God is all-knowing. All-knowing because this consciousness is beyond time and space. Time and space is what creates past, present, and future. In speaking about God being all-knowing, the thought is that we are limited in our knowing because of time and space, because we exist in time and space, and that it's broken up into sections. We can remember this much, or we can contain this much, and that we, being subject to the afflictions, they call it, which are the things that taint our mind and consciousness, desires, attractions, aversions, fear, doubt, all of those things that come into the human mind that don't touch the mind of God, they limit our ability to know everything. They limit our knowledge to being, we have to access our memory to go into the past, right? And we certainly can't go into the future. We can only imagine the future. But we access our memory, but our memory is affected by these same afflictions of desires and fears and all that stuff, so that we don't have a perfect knowledge. Our knowledge is tainted. If we could get beyond all of these afflictions, which while we're embodied we can do it for a time, but we always seem to return to some limitation, just because we're in these bodies and we're either being in protection of this body in this life, or whatever it is. It's something that is uniquely human. This is why we are not all-knowing. Saying we could be if we could get beyond these things. So, in a kind of a roundabout way, you could say that this is why we meditate. We meditate to, some would say, to become more godlike, but to be able to minimize the effect of these afflictions. That's just the word they use in these teachings. The 5 afflictions of attraction, aversion, fear of death, all those things. I can share those with you later. So 25, talking about God being all-knowing, moves into 26 that says, therefore God is the teacher of all teachers. And Sutra 27 begins to speak about God's name, or God's signifier, or the symbol for God being Om. Om is a beautiful thing to contemplate. I'm going to look at what time it is to see if I should go into Om this week or next. Yeah, I could do a little bit of it. So Om is like, in yoga philosophy, the Trinity. I'm going to show you an image of it and then talk about it. Hopefully I'll show you an image of it. Alright. So you see Om. And when talking about Om is the trinity of Brahma, creator, Vishnu, sustainer, Shiva, the transformer or destroyer, and then there's this little line with a dot at the top, which symbolizes the beyond, which symbolizes the unchanging, eternal principle beyond all of this happening here, creation, destruction, sustaining, all of this which happens in the universe, in the world. And it is advised that we chant Om and contemplate Om as a symbol of God, or everything happening in God. I'll say more about that next week. I think we'll chant Om, and I'll discuss a little bit about what the chanting of Om is supposed to do for you. It's supposed to transform all of those afflictions and really remove any obstacles. You could actually, in your contemplation, envision the vibration of Om clearing away any obstacles to full realization. Om is said to be the representation of that which set everything in motion. So it's said that the creation of the universe happens through an interaction between consciousness and matter. Consciousness and matter are said to be eternal principles always in existence. Now, matter is really, in its eternal form, is called Prakriti, and it is either dormant or active. And it's consciousness mixing with matter in its eternal state, dormancy, right? And then consciousness mixes with it and brings it into action. So think of the Big Bang that they talk about. They talk about the Big Bang being an infinitely dense point that for some reason burst into activity or burst into being and set things in motion. We don't know how, but there it was. That was my scientist talking about the Big Bang voice. So I don't think that science and the yoga tradition are talking about two different things. I think they're talking about the same exact thing. That there was dormancy and suddenly it became activity. So if you look at the Genesis story, it's all the same thing. It's all the same thing. Genesis, in the beginning, there was just a void. And then there was movement and light. There's a story around it, about how, and the story matches a yoga tradition that God spoke the world into being with the sacred sound, which is Om. It's set in motion, creation, sustaining of that creation, destruction of that creation. It's also said that the cycle of the universe, which is huge and we can barely imagine it, the cycle of this universe and all universes is huge. It's massive. The timeline is beyond anything we could ever even imagine. We're trying to imagine it now, but so the fact that the beginning didn't burst into human beings just goes to show you that the in-breath and out-breath of this idea of God is way beyond anything we can imagine. And we look at our little life and look at our existence and think, oh, like we've been here forever. We've been here for like a blip. This has been going on for so long, and then here we are. And there's a whole story I could go into about that. But I'm going to end here. It's a lot, I think, which is why we've stayed in this section for so long, because I really enjoy contemplating this, and I like the connection between our scientific discoveries, which really is us contemplating our origins, and how doing that with yoga philosophy and with science alongside one another, it just makes my little heart happy, because it's like we're coming full circle. The earliest teachings, some of the earliest teachings, are exactly what we're discovering in science now. That just fascinates me. And we didn't need these modern instruments to do it with. It happened in consciousness, which is why Roy says all the time, everything that can be known about the universe can be known by us if we cultivate it in consciousness. And I know it's true because I see the teachings and they are ancient, and they knew what we know now about the creation of the universe. I just love that. Anyway, that's what I wanted to share today, and I'd love to hear either your thoughts on it or whatever's going on with you.